Welcome to The Problem Was Me. I'm your host, Tom Gagliano. I'm a best-selling author, family dynamics expert, and social worker. And we'll be discussing childhood messages and their impact on addiction, the intimacy we have or don't have, our parenting skills, the careers we choose, even the roles we're set up to play in life. Do you put other people's needs ahead of your own? Do you have a hard time sharing your feelings? Do you feel invisible? Do you have a hard time saying no to others? Do you have an inner voice screaming for help, but yet you're so afraid of allowing others to hear this voice? Well, you've come to the right show. I'll be touching upon these issues and much more from my personal and professional experiences to help you end the negative self-talk and take your life to a new level. The Problem Was Me starts now. Everyone, welcome to The Problem Was Me, with me, your host, Tom Gagliano. So today we're going to talk about the ways to heal a tough relationship, mend back a broken relationship, and we're going to talk about infidelity, betrayal, and all these other things. So the first thing I ask a couple is this: are you in or out of the relationship? And that's not up to me, it's up to them. And look, if you choose to be out, it happens. Sometimes you're in the wrong relationship, the wrong person. It's a mistake. It's all right. But if you choose out, do it like an adult. Walk out the front door. Don't sneak out the back door and hurt your partner even more. Don't hurt yourself, because I know you don't feel good about yourself when you're sneaking around and keeping secrets. And more than anything, what behavior are you modeling for your children if there is children involved? So if you want out, that's fine. Now, this podcast is about wanting in the relationship, because in other instances, the relationship is doomed to fail for a great many reasons. Number one, of course, infidelity and betrayal. But are you afraid of intimacy? Are you afraid to share your feelings? Are you afraid to create healthy boundaries? Do you know how to give empathy and have empathy returned? All of these things will destroy a relationship if you don't know how. So this is what we're going to talk about in this podcast. Now, infidelity comes in different shapes and sizes. There's a lot of things today that are called digital infidelity. It's not only physical infidelity. We are going on our computers, our wrist phones, our cell phones, and we're sexting, we're texting, we're watching images we shouldn't watch. It may not be physical in nature, but you're still giving a part of yourself that you should be only given to your partner. Learning that uncomfortable conversations, the ones that we fear the most, if done like an adult, brings closeness. Healthy conversations when we're in dysfunctional relationships are always avoided. We do that destructive dance. We become victims to each other. No one hears the other one's concerns because we're so busy feeling like they don't care, they don't care. So we're going to talk about how to mend back that broken relationship. And I got good news for you. Devastations create miracles. Yes, they do. I've had many of my clients that took direction come back to me and say, we have a better relationship than we ever thought possible. Why is that? Because the devastation made them work on things in their relationship they would have never worked on before. That devastation created a miracle. But I'm not going to fool you. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of willingness to trust the process. It's not easy, because you're going to do things you don't feel like doing, do things you don't want to do things you don't trust. But that's the road back to healing the relationship. That's what the problem is. Healing the relationship, at the end of the day, if you do what you always did, you're always going to get what you always got. So if your best thinking isn't working in conversations, why don't we change the conversations? Why don't we try other things? So that's the very first thing that we have to work on is conversations. But before that, we have to work on three things: the problem, the solution, and how to work the solution. What's the problem? Well, the problem is building self-awareness, to know what my fears are, to know why I sabotage intimacy, to know what's stopping me from getting close. And I want to tell everybody something right now. Nobody's going to do this if they need to. You're only going to do this if you want to. That's the only way this is going to work. if you want to, because you're going to have to take direction and do things that you don't feel like doing or want to do. If you want to, let's go ahead with the podcast, because that's the key. So let's build self-awareness. We have a lot of messages in our lives from peers, social media, very impactful. None as impactful as the messages we receive in childhood. They teach us how to view the world, how the world views us. They create the core beliefs, the values we have. Do we feel good enough that we deserve to be happy? Everything begins in the childhood. So let's time travel back, because these are important facts you have to know. The number one thing is children are egocentric. They believe the world revolves around them. I said this in every podcast, and I'll keep saying a child that doesn't feel like they matter in their childhood won't stop loving their parents. They'll stop loving themselves. Even parents at work all the time, they may say, I'm doing what I can do for my kids. Your kids may not look at that. They may feel like, why aren't they talking to me and having more time? Why do I go there? Because it creates the fragmentation that flows through their life. They show the world one part of themselves, but there's an inner part that they feel defective. If my parents don't love me, if I don't matter to them, I don't trust anybody in my adult life. And that goes right into your adult intimacy. So let's talk about what we saw. What was the version of intimacy we saw as children? What did we see our parents do? Did they help each other, nurture each other through their problems? Did they run away, shut down, act out? Trust me when I tell you this. You're going to reenact that when those same feelings come up for you in your adult life. So we got to look at that piece. We got to look at that piece of what's going on in that childhood that creates that. Because what is intimacy? Into me. It's our insides. It's not our outsides. Do I feel like I deserve to be loved? Do I know how to give love? Do I know how to accept love? We got to look at that part of the problem that's going to show up in our adult life. So before the healing begins, I have sessions, consulting sessions with the person that created the betrayal and infidelity. That's the first thing I do, because that has to stop. Nothing's going to heal unless that stops. And I begin to ask them, why don't they talk to their partner? What are the reasons? And I throw some suggestions out to them. Is it because you think you're going to only argue? Is it because you think it's not going to help, so why talk? Are you afraid to share your feelings? Is that why you don't talk? Are you afraid you're going to hurt their feelings? Is that why you don't talk? Do you feel like you're always going to be the identified patient? Is that why you don't talk? We have to work on that. And here's a key. We have to work on as well. Did you ever learn to regulate your feelings as a child? Your conflict as a child? Was the pain so much that you had to run to feel goods? Infidelity and betrayal is as addictive as any addiction. And I'll show you why in a minute. I'll explain that to you. But if I don't know how to regulate my feelings or regulate my conflict, most likely I'm going to run to feel goods in order to do that. And that's where the infidelity and the betrayal comes in. So I got to be aware of that piece, that brokenness inside of me, if I want to fix it. So when I have the individual, I talk to them and I ask them, you know what? Betrayal and infidelity is like a stick of dynamite. When you commit the infidelity or the betrayal, that's when the dynamite goes off. Boom. But what lit the fuse? What lit the fuse? What created that trail before the dynamite went off? And most of the time, it's because I don't trust my partner with my feelings. And I don't know how to regulate my feelings. I don't know how to deal with conflict. So we got to grow up. We got to learn to do that without getting feel goods to nurture that pain, that wound. Now I take that individual and I put him in one of my groups because I believe all recovery, all healing from the person that does the infidelity to the partner is a we process. We need to solicit the help of others to guide us through this. So when I put that person in my group that committed the infidelity, they're with like-minded people, people that have gotten to the other side, people that feel the rewards. Wow, I like myself more. I like who I see in the mirror. So I put them in touch with other people that have worked through this. other people that are going through this, all different stages, but they can give them their experience, their strength, and hope to believe they can. And they're on text messages all week with each other so that when they have uncomfortable feelings, when they're dealing with conflict, and it doesn't have to be with their partner, it could be with anything, their boss, their children, anything, they don't light the fuse. Because when that fuse is lit, it sizzles down towards the dynamite. That's the ritual. And all of us that are in infidelity or betrayal, okay, in the way I said in this podcast, not those that want to get out, those that are in, there's a ritual that happens. Maybe I turn the computer on and it triggers me. Maybe I do this, do that. I look in what's on sites, whatever. There's always that ritual, and that's the fuse that sizzles down. And if you don't stop that fuse soon enough, like all addictions, you're going to act it out in destructive ways, destructive entitlement, and that's what will happen. So we have to be aware of what is the trigger that starts that fuse. So when I have the clients with sobriety that are learning what we're talking about right now, it's amazing that their partners end up wanting to see me in marriage consultations. Why? Because they see a tremendous difference in their partner. They see, wow, they're acting differently. They're more there. They're not in another world. They're more in tune to my feelings. I like what I see. And that's when I start to do marriage consultations. And trust me, I never wanted to do this. I'm a recovering addict, and I really wanted to help all those that suffered from the betrayal, infidelity, addictions. But God had another plan for me, I guess. And then we start to build back and mend back the brokenness in the couples. And then we start the couples sessions. But first and foremost, the infidelity and betrayal have to stop. If it doesn't stop, there's no use in having the couples consultations. But with the help of others, other people in my group, people become much more self-aware. They know what the problem is. They know what the solution is, reaching out to other like-minded people. And we're going to get into how to work that solution, okay? The actions we need to take, and they're not easy. It takes courage. But more than anything, the willingness to take direction, to do what I may not want to do, to trust the process that I can't control. That's the key to working the solution. So when we do come back, we're going to now get into the couples. That was all about the individual that created the infidelity or betrayal. Again, that has to be arrested first. But now we get into the couples because both have to be in the we process. And I'll explain why when we come back. Please stay tuned and join me. Hi, welcome back to The Problem Was Me with your host, me, Tom Gagliano. So we spoke about the individual's part in what they need to work on, joining my groups, being a we process, the part of healing their individual wounds. Because at the end of the day, everything's about working on yourself individually. When you work on yourself individually, the marriage, the relationship will come together much better. We can't go to second base first. We got to work on ourselves individually, whether it's the betrayer or the person that's been betrayed. So when I have couples, I tell the partner, look, you also have to work on yourself, even if they're the culprit, even if they created a betrayal. And many times I give them the phone numbers of those that I've helped, the person that's been hurt, the person that's really, that their self-esteem has been destroyed, to talk to them, to bring them confidence that this does work if you work it. So I tell the partner, you need to get help too, because you've adapted a role around the person that did the betraying that's not healthy in itself. Maybe you thought you can talk them to health, lecture them to health. Maybe you thought you could get mad and yell at them. Maybe you thought you could control them. Well, those things don't work. So throw them out. You need to talk to other people that have been through this And many times, if you can't afford a professional, I tell them to go to Al-Anon. And the 3 C's are beautiful. I can't control my partner's behavior. I can't cure my partner's behavior. And I didn't cause my partner's behavior. If you could work on that and build your own self-esteem, it's very important. So when we start these marriage consultations, I ask the partner that's been hurt what they need to stay safe in the relationship, what they need to build back trust. And I go to the person that committed the infidelity and ask them, will you go to any lengths to build back trust? Because trust takes a long time when you've been hurt like that. So maybe the partner might say, I want their computer filtered, or I want their passwords on their phone, or I want the computer in a room that I can see it, no bedroom or bathroom with sneaking and secrets. Now, that doesn't last forever. No, you don't have to live that life forever. But in the beginning, you got to remember, you have to build back trust because you really hurt that person badly. The person that's betrayed may feel like they're not pretty enough, handsome enough, sexy enough, smart enough, young enough, but it's destroyed their self-esteem. So trust takes patience and time. And that's why the person that created the problem, I'm talking about the betrayal, needs to connect with my groups to ease them and heal them through this process. Now, the person that's been hurt needs their own individual process, maybe a professional, Al-Anon, as I said, other places that they could start to heal themselves. Because if this relationship doesn't work, you're left with yourself. You still have to work on yourself because you are the most important relationship you have in your life, not the one with your partner. So if this does happen, you want a support group, a we process, I call it. And I call it a bunch of witnesses that know your truth, that can nurse you to health. So this is important. And again, I ask the couples, why aren't you talking? What is stopping you from talking? Are you afraid it's going to argue? Are you afraid that you're going to hurt your partner? You're afraid that you don't want to share your own feelings because you feel like you don't deserve it? Are you afraid it's going to only end up in an argument? All of these things make sense if you're having destructive conversations. But what if you change that conversation? And that's what I work on with my clients. Starting off in a positive way. I want to talk to you because I want to work on this relationship. And not weaponizing the past, not bringing in all the should-haves and could-haves of what you did to me or what I did to you. When you weaponize, all of a sudden, we only want to be right and nobody's listening. To tell your partner how you feel, not telling them what they should do or I need you to do. Tell them how you feel. And to have like-minded people around you that you could say, hey, what did you do when you felt this way, when you wanted to do this? What did you do? Give me your experience, strength, and hope. This is how we heal individually and heal the relationship. So it's very important to surround ourselves with like-minded people, people that know what we've been through. I could tell you the rewards will not be early, but they will come. And you can be in a better relationship than you ever thought possible, but you got to work on it. And working on it means taking direction that you may not want to take. Changing the whole schema you have with your partner, changing that adaptive role you have with your partner, because that's what's going to make it work. Changing the conversation and being able to bring your insides out. What did I say in the beginning? Many of us are fragmented. We dare not show how we feel inside. We have an inner voice that's screaming for closeness, but we don't let anybody hear that voice because we're afraid that we're going to be let down. We're going to be abandoned. We're going to be hurt. So many times we either become too needy and we just surround our partner with such neediness that it makes them crazy, or we pull back so much that we will not let them in. Either way, it's not healthy. What we want to create, we want to go from fragmentation and we want to go through being real, congruent, where I say what I mean, I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. So when we do couple sessions, consultations, I talk to them. What are you afraid of you saying to your partner? Let's get this out. What makes you feel good when you're with your partner? What makes you feel uncomfortable with your partner? Let's work on the safety rules for each and the other so we can have these conversations. What traits do you love about your partner? What traits scare you about your partner? All of these things have to come out because intimacy is into me. It's not the outsides, it's the insides. And if you don't have the insides out, you will sabotage your relationships from both ends. That's what intimacy is. It's bringing the insides out and becoming congruent. And I ask these questions. Let's get them out. What do you need to stay safe? What does your partner do that triggers you? What's the nonverbal messages, the looks that trigger you? We got to get this all on the table. And it's scary sometimes. You're afraid. You don't know what's going to happen. But if you don't bring it out, you will act it out with destructive entitlements, feel goods, or you'll act it in with depressions and isolations and not be happy anyway. So these are the things that have to come out. So when we're talking about couples intimacy, the first thing that has to happen, again, I want to go back. The betrayal has to stop. Any infidelity has to stop, whether it's digital or physical. Nothing goes forward if that doesn't stop. That's the first thing that has to stop. And that means you got to have the willingness, the desire, the need to take direction, to do what I encourage you to do. My groups, other like-minded people, where you feel like I can do this. I see happiness here. This guy, this lady, they found happiness. How did you do it? I took direction. Direction is not easy for many people. Not at all. So in this podcast, again, of course, there's many other things that I can go into right now. But at the end of the day, the key is to take out what you can that you can use, leave the rest. But remember something, your best thinking hasn't worked up to this point. That's why you're listening to this podcast. And if you want to mend back your relationship, you got to let go of your best thinking. It's not working. And it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's not going to matter. We got to choose closeness. We got to hear what our partner's not saying. We're all in a relationship with our partner's childhood messages. And they're all in a relationship with our childhood messages. And we may not feel safe enough to share those messages and feelings or even know what they are. But trust me, it's going to show up. And it takes really diligence and willingness to work on that. So I urge you to take that step. Don't wait till you feel like doing this in order to do this. Because if you want to work on your relationship, it's going to be too late. Recovery, healing, mending is all doing things you don't feel like doing. Don't wait till you feel like doing it because it's going to be too late. But again, as I said before, the willingness to take direction. It doesn't matter how much you need to do this. That does not matter. It's your willingness to do this that's going to get you to take actions, to change conversations, to walk away from the destructive dance and do what you don't want to do. So I hope this podcast helped you a little bit. Again, I always say, take what you can that you can use and leave the rest. So in 2 weeks from now, we're going to talk about a society filled with anxiety. How did COVID, how did social media affect you and your children in negative ways? How did it bring more anxiety into your life? What could you do to stop that anxiety? So in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about a society filled with anxiety. Thank you for joining me. I hope this helped. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. You've been listening to The Problem Was Me with me, the host, Tom Gagliano. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the Transformation Talk Radio as I help you break the cycle of negative and addictive thinking affecting the emotional intimacy you have, your parenting skills, the careers you choose, even the roles you were set up to play. As a high-profile leader in addiction and self-help, I've helped develop unique methods and procedures which have helped numerous institutions and individuals. For more information on how I can assist you creating a healthier life, visit theproblemwasme.com.